So you just going to start by just describing in the short history of applied behavior analysis. Studies have shown that experimental functional analyses are the hallmark of identifying variables which influence the occurrence of problem behavior, according to Hanley, Iowata, and McCord from 2003. A functional analysis or analyses are the manipulation of experimental conditions in which antecedents and consequences are systematically arranged against a control of this condition to determine maintaining functions and behavior. Whereas descriptive assessments or functional behavior assessments are done in the natural environment. They're not done in an experimental control to identify natural consequences between the behavior and antecedents and conditions that occur surrounding the behavior. And although results from several studies have shown poor correspondence between functional behavior assessments and experimental functional analyses, according to Hall in 2005 and Iowata in 1993, descriptive assessments are still the most commonly used for developing interventions, including Wisconsin school districts under the guise of IDEA. IDEA states that intervention plans should be based on functional behavior assessments, and those functional behavior assessments should be considered when behavior interferes with the learning environment, or becomes dangerous. And the structural approach to hypothesizing the relationships between environmental stimuli and behavior are the standard in your school setting. So our question for today is it ethical to consider continue the use of solely descriptive functional behavior assessment for the development of behavior intervention plans when the research shows it has been replicated over hundreds of different cases that experimental functional analyses are the more accurate measure of functional relationships between behavior and stimuli across populations, settings, and geographies. And then I will go into kind of introducing everybody and what their role is, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the outline. You're up next. Got it. So that's Bob Kinsker as the speaker for the pro experimental functional analysis.
Evening, everyone else who's not talking. I can hear some feedback. Okay. After the introduction, I'll go on. Probably at baseline of the state believes that IDEA needs to require that schools determine the functional relations of learning behaviors by utilizing the experimental functional analysis, or EFA, prior to the implementation of intervention. In addition, state and federal education should mandate the use of EFA in conjunction with descriptive functional behavioral assessment to best identify what function is maintaining the behavior in question. Anything less than conducting an EFA to identify the cause of behavior is just a guess and could lead to an erroneous conclusion. The descriptive functional assessment can only show correlations as by manipulating environmental variables. Also, data shows that descriptive functional assessments are motivational operations and description of consequences other than, as mentioned, run without an analysis of antecedents and consequences rather than targeted behavior, making it difficult to determine the exact control condition. It is possible that incorrect identification of function could lead to an inappropriate intervention resulting in the exacerbating of target behavior and possibly leading to a harmful outcome to the client. Certainly, an erroneous identification of functional relations could discredit applied behavior analysis. EFAs are the standard to show functional relations as it is the most precise and accurate method of assessing behavior. The benefits of an EFA are the EFA does not need to be time-consuming. It can be conducted in a natural environment or an analog setting. All training via CPA is not required to implement the EFA. The EFA can still be appropriately conducted in those situations which apply to engage in more graded courses.
And then,
maybe once we transition from here to the next, how does that work? If it's happening first.
yeah. No. I will absolutely do that. This practice is good for me to kind of hear what exactly what the layout's going to be so that I can kind of take it to if you're done before your time to transition. But yeah, I can then introduce the next person. Okay.
Each other, or how do you want to?
We could probably, if we don't get that part down today, maybe we can continue to practice each of our presentations, time ourselves, and then the week before we can kind of time it out where I'll have the countdown for everybody. Is that okay? Okay. Or we could actually, I know we were going to say we were going to record it, but even if we record it for our own self, make sure that when we replay it and the time. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. We don't have to set it just for ourselves to go back and hear it. Hey, and then, you know what, honestly, if I, get the practice down and we're, kind of transferring the video today, we can always have it as a backup. Exactly. Okay, so next up then is Stephanie, who is our speaker for the functional behavior assessment side.
Good. Functional behavior assessment uses special conditions and conditions for assessing behavior trigger and students consequences and assessing them. Contextual variables to ensure differences in characters. Demonstrate with constant year, environmental conditions such as heat, cold, and noise. FDA group is found away from state direction or activity. The resources needed are minimal and available in most settings when conducting FDA. Several studies have formulated effective treatments based on results from descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis can provide additional information before running the functional analysis.
And Keely is going to be our approver for the ESA.
So, everybody will know.
Hearing that well, feeling.
That's better?
Yeah. Yeah, that was better.
Say more, Jane.
Is it better now? I can't hear anybody else.
Yeah, that was better.
Alright, good. Alright, so, starting over, individuals that are participants in CSAs use several misconceptions that are easy to fall into when you're not familiar with CSA. One of the misconceptions are that they're time consuming. However, you can shorten sessions to as 3 to 5 minutes when you're looking at 4 environmental conditions. A typical session will only run you about 30 minutes long. Also, you can shorten the sessions by just looking at specific environmental settings. You can shorten the time just looking at 2 environmental settings if you feel that those are the environments that are triggering the behavior. Another misconception is that schools don't have designated areas that make running ESAs doable. And while having a separate area is nice, there are other options. You can run natural ESA sessions, which are done right in the student's classroom. And this can actually be beneficial for students who are very rigid in their routines and by bringing them to a separate area to trigger other behaviors. People are used to the running an FA session requires extensive training. However, sessions will like to hear students' physical work seconds, which the teacher is running, that they should already be familiar with doing, and that will help minimize training. And then the next one I had was her running FA sessions to focus on challenging behavior. People are less willing to do this just because they don't want to if the child is dangerous or looking at like a SID or property destruction. Another option for cafes is to run specifically look at latency assessment and measure the latency to the first instance of the behavior, and then you can end the session and use that to look at the results. And then finally, people are busy reinforcing the challenging behavior, but ultimately the focus is more effective to reinforce the behavior voluntarily or behavior intended in the. And then I will be sure to work in on my the privacy.
Well, that's nice job.
Thank you.
Yes, those are all good points. So then following you, Stephanie again will talk more about the use of the functional behavior assessment and the strengths behind that.
Okay. So, speaking the ethical code 3.01, behavior analytic assessment. When behavior analysts are developing a behavior reduction program, they must first conduct a functional assessment. So our first argument is that FBA uses natural conditions. This analysis involves direct observation in the natural environment, provide data and place of following behaviors, and ideas for determine treatment efficacy when intervention is implemented. They provide understanding of how behavior and environmental effects occur in the natural environment. Some studies have used descriptive analysis to determine common antecedents and consequences of following behavior in the natural environment. For example, Sassy and Chapman of 2004 descriptive analysis to study parent-child interactions of 47 to 3-year-old children with or at risk of developmental delay. This study looked at the occurrence of naturally appropriate and inappropriate behavior in a clinical sample of young children with or at risk of developmental delay. This observes natural interactions between children and their mothers and family close. And finally, this study highlighted the social and non-social antecedents and consequences in several everyday contexts that may lead to the development of strong behavior in children with developmental delay. Our second argument is that FBA provides effective treatment, and it's aimed at ethical code 2.09 treatment and intervention efficacy. Some advantages of descriptive assessment include ease of data collection, identification of quantitative aspects of environmental events, selection based on behavior. Effective treatment based on ADC assessment has been reported. Several studies have examined the validity of descriptive analysis by comparing descriptive data. Some of these studies have shown correspondence between the two assessment formats. For example, Sasser and colleagues in 1982 compared two assessment procedures, the experimental functional analysis, descriptive analysis, and the custom experimental analysis. He also demonstrated that each procedure identified negative reinforcement as a mentioned for the behavior. Furthermore, in this study, demonstrated that the intervention based on the assessment is never effective in reducing certain behavior, and we can share like the screen with a graph when I talk about study. The next point is that several studies have common treatment based on results from descriptive analysis. Anderson and Cockett in 2006 studied whether the structured descriptive assessment might be used with typically developing children to engage in problem behavior. Hypotheses about functional relations were developed for all children, and effective interventions were developed and implemented based on descriptive assessment, and we have another graph that we can see for this one. In another study, I don't know how many, like, I gave two examples, but like some points only have lines, some points are shells. So, like, this is too much information on this one, and discuss that after. So, in some study, Van der Hagen and colleagues in 2001 examined the validity of basic treatment as a result of a whole set of descriptive analysis conducted by rotating one classroom and a subset of students in the second classroom. This results demonstrated that interventions derived from group descriptive analysis produce differentiated results. Further, a more successful suppression of disruptive behavior with the same is the treatment indicated that it is in the assessment validation in both classrooms. Finally, SDAs can provide additional information before running functional analysis. Structured analysis may provide information on idiosyncratic events that might otherwise not be included in typical functional analysis conditions. Detailed methods of data analysis called statistical analysis to examine the relations between severe problem behavior emitted by adolescents and the behavior of their caregivers. The goal of the study was to understand how and in what relation to behavior events similar to those identified in the functional analysis actually occur during adult-child interaction. The results suggest that potentially reinforcing events might exert influence over behavior even when they occur in very subtle ways. Authors suggest that descriptive analysis should continue for the purpose of identifying kinds of potential reinforcement contingencies that could be evaluated in both basic and applied research. Descriptive analysis has been used to identify potential behavior which immediately and reliably produces target behavior. Precursor evaluations are particularly useful when the target behavior pictures useful functional analysis, such as the behavior that cannot be allowed to occur, such as forms of dangerous behavior or aggression. Research in colleagues in 2009 demonstrated that conditional probability analysis of descriptive tests identified 3 potential precursors. Results from the indirect assessment corresponded with those obtained from the descriptive assessment. When contingencies were arranged for the precursors, in the functional analysis, the same function was identified as for the target behavior. Instead of support the utility of indirect and descriptive assessment, and potential behavior empirically. This is also related. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see you yet, but I can hear you.
Okay. I had some problem with my phone, and you can hear I have a little bit of a cold, and there seems to be an echo. Can you hear that too? No? Okay, well, I'll start speaking and see if I can work on the video as well, but I can see you guys, and I can hear you guys. So, I'll be talking about the points again about the PROM ESA. And I did have one question though, probably I think Saban, who was PROM ESA before me. I have included the definition of what functional analysis is, but I do wonder, is that something that we wanted to talk about earlier? Only because that was some of the feedback the professor had gave us about talking about what the different definitions were of the functional behavior assessment versus the functional analysis.
Sure, I think we need to touch on that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mandy. I thought I got all your introduction, but maybe I missed a little bit.
That's okay. Yeah, I went through and I tried to kind of define what each of them were, and then kind of give a general description between, what is required by law through IDEA, additionally what has been shown in research, and then what is kind of the ethical dilemma there.
Okay.
But I think definitely there are other visuals that we'll add in when we do the, when we add in our outline to the presentation for everyone to see. Those are really good and allowing people to understand better what each of those visuals are really good.
Okay. All right, we've got it. I just kind of picked those off of Google Images. I researched a little bit. I'm going to create some of my own. Stephanie knows that it's me. I read out the ethical code again. So the ethical code 3.1, which discusses behavior analyst assessment, that we state that prior to recommending behavior change programs, the current assessment does need to be conducted. However, it does not state which type of assessment should be conducted. It may be that a functional behavior assessment has already been conducted, and the behavior analyst is looking to conduct a functional analysis. A functional analysis is when the antecedents and consequences in the person's natural environment are arranged so that the effects of the problem behavior can be observed and measured. And then I pulled this from Cooper 2007. Problems with excessive data that part of the descriptive data, as Stephanie mentioned above, there are some problems that can be foreseen in an EFA, and one of them is that the observation, I see that. Okay, one of the problem is that when you involve the observations of the problem in relation to the event, they're arranged in that systematic manner that you can use when you're conducting that EFA. And using that, looking at those conditions, when you conduct an EFA is helpful to really have those conditions and really look at those behaviors separately in each separate condition. So the questions can be repeated to determine which type of behavior occurs more frequently in each condition. The conditions can be set up to be fairly short in length, so they're kind of time effective. And then obviously afterwards you can always graph what you found out in each condition. The conditions that are rearranged can be certainly things that you can decide when you conduct an EFA in the beginning. You might not see the purpose of conducting each condition if you do have a current FDA. You might look at that FDA to gather that background information and say, okay, the FDA did show this. You really want to conduct an EFA. You can certainly use that information from the FDA to kind of lay out what you think your conditions should be. So just what I'm trying to think here is that obviously we all know because we've done some research that many places cannot conduct EFAs for a wide variety of reasons. So I certainly want my piece to be about that we can gather appropriate information as we need to from the FDA, but it's just not enough, and that's why we're going to do the EFA. So just so everybody's clear on what I'm trying to say there. There was one bullet point here that I think was made when the outline was made, and it did talk about the bullet point right here about the insufficient description of the antecedent. And I certainly can go into that a little bit, but I think if I do that, I would put it a little bit earlier in here. So that's one bullet that I kind of left there at this point. So I will go separately into the conditions, but I still have to do that briefly because I feel like if I went into each condition of how to conduct an EFA, that could be quite lengthy. So I will just give a brief overview also of the conditions, but I was having a hard time making that short, so I need to work on that. And then I'll also be bringing up talking more about IWADA, and I'll reference definitely the article for the functional analysis of self-injury, and that the reason I use that article is because that was really definitely one of the reasons he's a big guru in the field is really to talk about the FAs and definition of self-injury and then how we tested the conditions. But it was definitely in a clinical setting. And I don't know if any of you have heard IWADA talk. He is fantastic. When he does talk, like I went and talked with him because I work at a school, and I definitely, some of the people that I work with me, and we did ask him some questions about how can you conduct it in a a school and in a clinical setting and what the conditions be the same. And he was fantastic. He gave us a lot of great information, and I won't go too much into that. But really, I think Dr. Kim was right in the saying that we have to bring more into this next year, because he was definitely the one that really pushed forward with the purposes of the FAs, and then, you know, how it could work with the behavior that was so challenging with self-injury. So I'll go into that as well, but again, I'll be honest to say that I was having trouble in my section that if I was going to go through the conditions and then talk more about the IWATA article, kind of keeping it honed down so it's not too long, so I need to work on that going through it. And then I will give, if there's still time, I'll give kind of a brief conclusion, I guess, of maybe why an EFA is most effective. But that's another thing that I'm glad we're meeting today is if any of you have suggestions that that should go in another area versus mine. So I'm trying to prove my point about the EFA, but certainly there's other factors, so I don't want to talk too much about why I feel the EFA is the most effective. If everybody's going to be rethinking that, I don't want to take anyone else's time. So I guess if I could get your guys' input on that would be great.
I think that from the individual more towards the prover side, where side's going from. And working on attacking other structures control assessment, where it should be.
Yeah, in listening to kind of what you were saying, I think one way that maybe, I like how you were talking about the functional behavior assessment, we don't need to throw that out the window, throw the baby out the bathwater. Use that, but we use that to then determine what conditions we want to use, and then maybe even bringing in more information about the classroom-based functional analyses and how you can actually run them in the classroom with natural conditions and triggers being those experimental conditions, and then how you alternate back and forth between what you have hypothesized as the function, and then how you create a control, and you can do that just very quickly in an A/B design in the natural setting. Okay, that might be one way to kind of attack that. Oh, yeah, you know, there are a lot of points as to why the using the natural conditions of the functional behavior assessment by doing observations and indirect assessments and ABC data and all of those components are very nice, because you can look at other confounding variables, but you can also do that with EFAs if you do a classroom-based EFA. Okay, just a thought.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's why I'm glad we're actually getting together a few times before we do our actual debate, you know, because I think that's the thing that I was most concerned about, is kind of the flow of it, and making sure that I'm not reiterating someone's point, or I'm not making it difficult for the other side to prove their point.
Yeah.
Because this is certainly the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And even thinking about what you were saying too, about the questions that Dr. Kim asked when she kind of gave us our feedback about the outline. There's those questions at the end that we have for, I'm happy to answer those, and those might even answer some of the questions that you were talking about, like, in terms of the ethical pieces and the dimensions of ADA and stuff like that.
Okay. Does anybody have the questions for me or any pointers for me? I'm happy to hear them. Okay. All right, I'll turn my mic off so someone else can talk.
And Carmelina, I think this was the last up.
Just a note for next week, I know we're not going to have any like video content, but I will read from my section. I'll write it out so that everyone can see in the paragraph form or speech form, so it's easier to follow. Everything you need is you're going to be following in terms of getting the time and stuff. So for that, that'll be my school. But okay, so I'm going to start off by saying most school settings do not have the resources to conduct experimental functional analysis, especially the space when behavior poses danger to self or others on property. The people in the sample experience expertise. The ethical codes that are related to FBAs and ESAs are 1.02 is the boundary of confidence. A BCBA may have the confidence to conduct an essay, a true ESA, however, this is a demand in public schools. If a BCBA is not available or the school is not afford to hire a BCBA to conduct the entire ESA, an ESA may be out of the classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, etc., all the other school staff have their boundary of confidence. Another ethical code 2.09 is the treatment and intervention efficacy, which states that client has the right to an effective treatment, and in order to determine an effective treatment, an assessment must be done to determine the function of behavior. Due to the constraints in a public school, an FDA would be able to provide the client with proper identification of the function of behavior. Which is why the IDEA mandates that an FDA is required. And ethical code 3.01, behavior analytical assessment. The BACBA ethical code states that they must first conduct a functional assessment, and that is required, whereas an analysis is not required by our BACB ethical code. Functional analyses in public school settings often require added conditions, and there is no research conducted on modified or changed conditions on how effective and valid the new conditions would be, or such the problems of creating those new conditions we were not sure how valid they even are. To continue with dangerous behaviors such as high magnitude poverty, destruction, aggression, and FOB, evoking the behavior to an ESA may not be safe or ethical. School personnel are often understandably insistent to allow the implementation of functional analysis procedures within the classroom settings, as it may increase risk to teachers and students and reduce instructional time. Naturally occurring compounding factors may be triggered or consequences for this kind of behavior that cannot be confined in the experimental conditions. Experimental conditions are often difficult to implement in a classroom setting, given the need for experimental control, and analog conditions often lack technological validity. It also supports previous statements that the literature demonstrating functional analysis procedures in classroom settings is not adequate to guide practice. And my last point is that the lack of agreement between the goals of functional analyses and the variables that may change behavior in natural settings raises concerns about the ecological validity of using standard analog conditions such as problem behavior. That's my last point, and I will be sure to incorporate all of my sources when I write out my paragraph, so I'll make sure I say this.
Great. And then for the conclusion, Bob, you're going to kind of wrap things up, okay? And then after Bob, Stephanie wraps things up, and then I can kind of conclude the debate.
Before moving on to the question, Councilman, I was thinking that we have a better debate than our president.
Fair enough.
A lot better job than they do. Anyway, as previously stated, ESAs should be mandated by IDEA along with the federal education system. It is with great certainty that a well-conducted ESA will result in identifying the functional relation through the manipulation of environmental variables in either an analog or natural setting that does not need to be time-consuming. In a FBA, being conducted on aggressive and self-interest behaviors can be done ethically. In the right setting, an FBA does not need to be conducted in a highly trained BCBA. Lastly, ESAs are the only way to precisely identify the functional relations of behaviors. Conducting only a descriptive functional assessment has many limitations, and thus is not an adequate tool to assess problem behaviors. Problems such as being only a descriptive functional assessment has many limitations and thus is not an adequate tool to assess strong behavior. Such as the descriptive assessment only provides data that is correlational and could lead to an erroneous conclusion, could result in inappropriate intervention. Descriptive assessments do not isolate variables, thus making it difficult to determine what the controlling variables are. And lastly, insufficient description of the antecedent results in incorrect conclusions about strong behavior. IDEA and school systems need to require ESAs to identify causal relations of strong behaviors. Descriptive functional assessments are not sufficient enough and not to lead to harmless decline.
To summarize the SBA side, we can affirm that functional assessments present some advantages. As previously discussed, observing the behavior in a natural environment helps providing information on the antecedents triggering the behavior and the consequences maintaining the behavior. The use of data collection and practice is also another positive aspect of the use of functional assessment. Descriptive analysis has shown to be very effective with the design of treatment. Functional analysis. Moreover, functional assessments help provide additional information such as idiosyncratic events that could be omitted in functional analysis. Descriptive assessments also help identify progressive behaviors which is extremely useful for target behaviors or behaviors. For which functional analysis is technical. And I only summarize the pros, but I think I should summarize also the technical points.
Stephanie, if maybe you don't do that part, like I was kind of trying to jot down some of what sounded like the core ideas for both sides, both positive and negative. So in general summary, functional behavior assessments are natural. They require less resources in terms of experience and knowledge for the classroom staff time, and they don't pose harm to the student in that the only behaviors that are being assessed are those that are actually occurring. So they are not as reliable in demonstrating experimental control, which may lead to erroneous hypotheses about the function of the behavior, and then go on to the side of the ESAs and kind of summarize those as well. And then I can go into the questions that Dr. Kim posed. And I'm happy to, since I didn't have to do as much in terms of, pushing one side or the other, answering those questions, if each of you kind of, or a number of you want to take back to the question.
That sounds good.
Okay. So I'll work on answering all those questions this week, and then I'll add them into the outline. And you guys can kind of read over those answers and see if you have any other feedback.
So we should be asking you a question in addition to what the question provided?
No, I was just going to say maybe each one of you could take a question to pose them back to me.
Oh, sure.
And then I'll answer it.
Okay, great. And so we just do that, I think some of you have seen, I think we've all been doing the same thing, just modifying that outline. That's where I added the graphic.
Yes, thanks. Yes.
So are you going to put your questions on there?
Yep, I will take out what the question is and then list what my responses will be for those questions in kind of essay format. And then if you guys have any other feedback or want to add any other pieces to that, feel free to do so, and then I can add that into the answer or response from me before this.
Okay. Okay. And I think a point that we have that should we be doing, I know it says the outline, but I'm happy to relate exactly what I'm going to be saying. Do you think that's within that outline, just write what we're saying for the final debate? Or are you okay with, is everybody okay with getting the gist of it down, but making sure that we have our own transcripts when we go live with the debate?
Maybe I'm trying to think of, because I want to have maybe one document that we turn in with the debate that is more specific to, giving kind of those visual pieces and not all of the information, but more of an outline of what we're going over to the other students. But maybe just for the reference of all of us, maybe we can either start another document or just add on to one of the logs, the narrative pieces, Carmelita, like you were talking about. You think we should just start adding another document? Like the
You can add this one.
which one's that?
One thing like, basically the bottom, it has our dialogue.
Okay.
You just have a better idea. Like to keep it all in one spot, that's all.
Okay. And then
Yeah, I think that will work. Maybe if we did like, how to go to certain points, in the beginning outline, and then right below, we can just write maybe narrative, and then just kind of go through it. That might be best.
Oh, that works.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that?
yes.
I'm sure we will all get to that anyway, but maybe everyone sees it the color, just to make it easier to see. Like I know, Haley's blue, Bob, you were like red, so all the big guys are in different colors, so it's easier to follow. Okay. I think that's so that if people feel like they cannot find a color that the rest of us can see, then they just pick a different font. Yeah. So it's different. Yeah, I agree. That just makes it easier.
So highlight it or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that we are definitely on the right track. I'll go ahead and wrap up this recording, and we can determine next week just based off of where we are, whether we want to touch base again, even if it's not necessarily through video, but even just in the Hangout, just so that we can see what's on get feedback for what's on the outline, the narrative, and the question.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a shot. Yeah, I'm going to try and convert it.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I'm sorry because I was obviously a few minutes late. Did we decide on when we are actually recording the final debate? I just want to make sure I didn't miss that.
No, you didn't. That's a good point. I'll probably do that.
Maria, what is that thing with that? But we just say next week, like Candy just said, we're not going, we don't need to have a formal debate on the 6th or the 16th, I guess at that time, the following weekend, we'll do like a run through just to have a backup and all record it and everything, just to see how it works. Okay. Okay, because it's due the 23rd, correct? That's when we have to post. That's when we post to the class. And obviously that, in essence, would be our final debate, correct?
Yeah. So even if we might, because it would just have to be posted for the class so that they can do the discussion board the following week. So even if we met the morning of the 23rd, I don't have the time, did it, and then made sure it was posted by that evening on the discussion board. Okay, good cut.
Okay, good. Yeah. Either of those dates work for me, so sounds good.
Okay.